Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. In this video, we will be discussing about vCenter server high availability feature and how do we enable it using basic workflow. As you know, vCenter server high availability, or also known as VCHA, is a new feature introduced in vSphere 6.5. This feature brings native high availability capabilities to the vCenter server appliance 6.5 and helps us to protect our vCenter server from the failures like hardware or complete host failure, network failure or isolation, network isolation, storage failures, or operating system failures. Now, one important thing to note here is VCHA or vCenter server high availability feature is only available with vCenter server appliance. It is not available with Windows-based vCenter server. And that is one of the reason VMware always recommend their customers to deploy VCSA rather than Windows-based vCenter server. Now, when you enable VCHA, a 3-node, as you could see in the diagram, a 3-node vCenter server cluster gets deployed where you could see the active node, passive node, and witness node gets deployed as part of vCenter server HA cluster to provide automatic failover between the active and passive nodes in any kind of event of failures. Active node is the node that runs the active instance of vCenter server, passive node that runs a passive instance of a vCenter server, and witness node runs as a quorum node. And there is also a vCenter HA network which gets established between these three nodes for performing to detect the failures and doing all of the replication stuffs. So in this video, we will be focusing on configuring VCHA using basic workflow. So let's get started. So as you could see, I'm logged into my vCenter server appliance vcsa-01a.govmlab.local. On the left side, if you see in the navigation pane, we have a vCenter. We have a vCenter server. We have created a data center called GoVMlab-VC. We also have created a cluster named as GoVMlab-cluster, and there is a ESXi host. infra-ESXi2.govmlab.local is added to our vCenter server. And now, as you could see, the VCSA-01A is a vCenter server appliance which is running on infra ESXi2.govmlab.local ESXi host. Now this particular configuration, also called as self-managed vCenter server, which means the active node is managing its own ESXi host and its own virtual machines. So we are going to perform vCenter server high availability with the configuration called self-managed vCenter server. There could be another case where basically vCenter server appliance is being managed by another vCenter server, but in that case you have to make sure both the appliances are in the same vCenter single sign-on domain. So let's get started. So click on vCenter server appliance, configure, and click on vCenter HA, and as you could see, vCenter HA is not configured, and there is a configure tab to create new vCenter server HA configuration. So click on configure. Now here you could see there are two kind of configuration options are available. First one is basic, second one is advanced. Now if you go with the basic option will be automatic, will be creating your peer nodes and witness node automatically. It will be cloning them, it will be configuring them, and it would be setting up all of the replication stuffs. The only prerequisite for basic workflow is creating a vCenter HA network. So we have to make sure that we create a vCenter HA network before configuring HA with basic workflow. Now if you look at the advanced option, in the case of advanced option, all of the configurations you have to do it manually. For example, you have to clone your VMs, peer nodes and witness nodes. You have to clone them manually. You have to configure them manually, and you have to do a lot of manual steps. You have to add a network card manually to configure vCenter HA network. So it's always recommended to go with the basic option until unless you have a very specific requirement of choosing advanced workflow. So let's click on basic. So select basic, click on next. Now, this is the wizard. Like as I mentioned, as a part of the basic workflow, one additional network card will be added to our existing vCenter server appliance, and what are the new VMs which are going to be cloned will have will have this network card which will be used for vCenter high availability network. And this newly added network adapter as a part of basic workflow is dedicated for internal communication between the vCenter server HA nodes. So here we have to provide the IP address which we are going to use for vCenter server HA network. But before doing that, what we have to do, we have to fulfill the prerequisites of configuring vCenter HA network. So let's click here and go to our ESXi host, configure virtual switches, and let's create a new boot group. So we are going to create a virtual machine boot group for standard switch. Select the existing switch and give a name of boot group. So I'll give a name like VCHA networks. So this is our VCHA network, and you can, if you want to give any VLAN ID just to segregate your L2 network traffic, I'll give a VLAN ID 101. Click on next. So as you could see, we have created a one standard. So we have created one more virtual machine boot group called as VCHA-network with the VLAN ID 101, and that would be created on the existing vSwitch 0. Click on finish. And now as you could see, if you click on vSwitch 0, you will have one new boot group VCHA-network with the VLAN ID 101. So we are going to use this particular VCHA network for all of the internal communication between active, passive, and witness nodes. So let's go back to our configure vCenter HA wizard. And now let's provide an IP address. So you have to make sure that whatever the IP address we are defining here for the configuring our vCenter HA network should not overlaps with our management network. It should be a different IP subnet. So since our management network is 20.20.20.4 or 20.20.20.0 network, so I'll give a HA network IP is 172.16.10.2. Subnet mask I'll give 255.255.255.0. IPv6 address we are not giving it. Now select vCenter HA network. So click on browse and select VCHA network. So this particular network card, which will be having a 172.16.10.2 IP, will be connected to VCHA network boot group. Click on next. Now, in this particular configuration wizard, we have to select IP settings for our passive and witness nodes. As you could see, it shows very clearly the vCenter HA IP address on active node you have configured as 172.16.10.2. So you have to make sure that you configure the same IP subnet on passive node as well as on witness node, because they all have to be on the same L2 network. So I'll give a IP as 172.16.10.3 for our passive node, and I'll give IP 172.16.10.4 to our witness node. Now click on next to continue. And now here we could review all of our deployment configuration for passive and witness node. And if you want to make any changes to any of the configuration, could be a data store, whatever has been selected here as a by default data store. If you want to make changes in data store, just click on edit and you can define your if you have any spare data store, you can select it, do that. So any customization you want to do, then you can click on edit buttons for the respective nodes and you can do those customization. Usually the customization we do it in the case of storage or maybe the host where those VMs will be deployed. In our particular case, if you see, we have all of the three VMs, active, passive, and witness nodes, are being deployed on a same host because it's because we only have a one ESXi host in our lab at this point of time. But ideally, in the customer environment or in a production environment, all the 3 VMs have to be deployed on 3 different hosts to provide you a better fault tolerance. So we have done some tweak in our lab environment where we are forcing HA feature to deploy all of these 3 VMs on a same host. But with the edit feature, you can go and select the host if you want to change it, or data store. In our case, let's say we'll go with the default configuration. Click on next. Now here we could review all of our vCenter server configuration. So it shows your passive node settings is 172.16.10.3 VCHA 01A. The VM name would be VCHA-01A-peer. Your witness node IP address is 172.16.10.4 and VCHA is 0.1A-witness would be the name of that witness node VM. Now click on finish to proceed with our vCenter server HA configuration. So once you click on finish, and as you could see, let me minimize this guy. So now as you could see, it has started deploying a vCenter HA cluster. So in the recent task pane, you could see it has started deploying a vCenter HA cluster, and now VM started. It has the basic workflow which does it automatically has started cloning the virtual machine, and the clone operation has started. And as you could see, we have a VM now, VCHA-01A-peer. So this VM it's being created. So let's wait for a few minutes to get this clone operation complete. Now as you could see, the peer VM has successfully been cloned, and now it has been powered on. And the overall status of vCenter HA cluster deployment is 44%. And now the clone operation for witness VM has started. So as you could see, another clone operation has started, and the VM has, as you could see, the clone operation for witness VM has started, and VM has, you could see VM VCHA-01A-witness. And overall HA cluster status also progressing from 44 to 54%. So let's say it's a very lightweight VM. The witness VM is very lightweight VM. So it will take another like few minutes, 1 or 2 minutes to get it completed. So let's get this clone operation also completed. Now, as you could see, witness VM also cloned successfully, and now VM has been powered on. And the overall status of our vCenter HA cluster is 78%. So that was the first thing where it has completed. It has done the clone of peer node and witness node, and now it will be doing all of the required configuration for vCenter server high availability. So let's browse through our vCenter server high availability option. So configure, select your vCenter server, configure vCenter HA, and now as you could see, the status is the vCenter HA is being deployed, and that's the reason these options are grayed out here. So it is currently being deployed, and we can monitor the recent task for the progress update. So let's wait for a few minutes to get this vCenter HA cluster deployment completed. Now, as you could see, the vCenter HA is enabled, and now it's showing us some kind of warning. So that is expected because at this point of time, the initial replication, which could be still in progress and which might take few minutes to get it completed. That's the reason it is showing this message. A replication failure might be occurring at the moment, so an automatic failover protection is disabled. So let's wait for a few more minutes to get this replication process completed. So meanwhile it gets completed, we could see here, you could see here the active node is having IP 172.16.10.2. This is our passive node. 10.3 is VM having a 10.3 IP is our passive node, and the VM having a 10.4 IP is our witness node. Now below here it shows the IP configurations of our VM. So if you active VM, you could see all of the IPv4 address. The management address is 20.20.20.4. And now, as I said, as you could see, the replication process, the replication between active and passive node is done, and now it shows the HA is enabled, vCenter HA is enabled, and the green mark means everything, the vCenter HA has been configured successfully. And automatic failover protection is also enabled now, which means if your active node goes down, passive is capable of taking that failure and resuming all of the vCenter operations. So that's what we were discussing. Active node, if you click on active node, it will give you detail about this. The VM settings information will give you about the VM information. What is the name of the VM? Which vCenter server is managing this VM? Which host is hosting this particular VM? Data is stored, network connectivity, management network connectivity, and your vCenter HA network is connected to VCHA network. Similarly, you click on passive node. Passive node will give you the same information about the VM settings and the IP settings, and same goes for witness node, where we have IP. So witness node will not have any management IP, because witness node is, as I mentioned, witness node is used for quorum node, and which does not get involved in the data path. So that's the reason it is having only vCenter HA network having IP 10.4, and VM is being hosted on this particular network and is only having a connectivity to VCHA network boot group. Now if you click on vCenter HA monitoring tab, so there you could see the entire state of your vCenter HA cluster, where the overall state of your vCenter HA cluster is, the overall health status of your vCenter HA cluster is good. Active, passive, witness, all of the three nodes are in a healthy state, and they are all in up. And here you could see all of the replication, where you could see the PostgreSQL replication mode is synchronous. So that is like pretty much taken care of. Advanced appliance configuration, they are also in sync. Appliance state is also in sync. Appliance DB is also in sync. So we have all of the nodes are in healthy state, and all of the replication, where we are replicating all of the DB information and all of the configuration information from active to passive, everything is in sync now. So now let's go back to our vCenter HA settings, and now let's do one thing. Since all of the vCenter HA has been set up, or it has been configured successfully, so now let's try to introduce the failure. So we know our active node is having a IP 10.2 and the VM name is VCHA-01A. So let's go and bring down power of this VM. So right click on the VM. Now once we do that, this is the one way of powering off the VM. So because we have already added, so it's something like you're accessing a vCenter server from VCHA-01A VM, and the same VM which I'm going to power it off. So let's power off this VM, introduce the VM failure. And now, as you could see, it will become inaccessible. I mean, the failover has started. So let me log into our ESXi host, which is running this VM, just to assure that VM has been powered off successfully. Now, as you could see, this is our infra-ESXi2 host, which was hosting our VCHA-01A VM, and VM has been powered off successfully. So our active node has gone down, and now passive node has to take over the control of control of all of the vCenter services. Now, as you could see, once you refresh the vCHA-01A.govmlab.local VC web client, you could see the failover is in progress. So failover is in progress means basically our passive node is taking control over all of the database operations, all of the vCenter operations, and will resume it from there. So let's wait for this failover process to get completed. Now, as you could see, the failover process has completed, and the web client server services is being initialized on our passive node, which is going to be active now. And now, as you could see, we are logged into our vCenter server. So that's what your vCenter high availability feature is all about. We have our active VM was down, and now peer VM has taken the control of all of the vCenter operations, and now we are accessing our vCenter server. So we are accessing our vCenter server. So let's go to again configure HA tab and look at the status now. So now as you could see, it shows the VM having IP 10.2 is down because that VM is in powered off state. So that has been marked as passive. And now which one has become active? The VM which was having a 10.3 IP. So that VM has become active now. And if you look at the VM settings, this is our VM VCHA-01A So this is the passive node which is serving this vCenter request or client request. Since we don't have another passive VM, that's the reason it is showing this warning, where basically it is showing the replication process has been stopped because there is no passive node available where the replication process can resume, and the automatic failover protection is also disabled. Now if you click on vCenter HA monitoring, and as you could see, it shows the health status, overall cluster health status is in warning state because the passive node is down, or we don't have any passive node at this point of time. vCenter HA cluster has lost a node. Postgres SQL or replication is not in progress. It is not in progress because we don't have any passive node with where we can resume all of our replication or appliance configuration, appliance state. So nothing is being replicated. So now let's go back and power on this VM. So once you power on this VM, this VM will become a passive now. And overall cluster health status should again go back to healthy. So let's wait for a few minutes to get this VCHA 01A booted up, and let's wait for all of its services to get restarted so that we could see the entire state of, so the vCenter HA cluster status will again resume back to the healthy state. Now, as you could see, once we have powered on our VCHA-01A VM, and when it comes up, the entire HA cluster health status get updated to green, which means our vCenter HA cluster is healthy. The replication is also enabled, and the automatic failover protection is also enabled. And you could see this is the active node, and the VCHA-01A has become our passive node. And you also click on HA monitoring, you could see the SQL replication mode is synchronous. So replication also is in sync. Appliance configuration, appliance state also is in sync, and the overall vCenter HA cluster health status is good. Now here, click on edit, and when you click on edit, so there are the 4 options we have. Enable vCenter HA, what we have already performed. Now maintenance mode, replication between the active and passive node is enabled, but automatic failover is disabled. So when you select the maintenance mode, your replication process would be enabled between active and passive node, but the automatic failover will not happen. You have to go and do it manually. Disable vCenter HA. If you select disable vCenter HA, both replication and automatic failovers are disabled, but vCenter HA configuration would be preserved. So it will not go and delete your peer VM or witness VM. It will keep the HA configuration as it is. It will keep the HA configuration preserved, but your replication and automatic failover will be disabled. And if you want to disable or you want to remove vCenter HA, then click on remove vCenter HA, where it will remove all of the vCenter HA configuration, and your current active node will continue to run normally. So let's remove our vCenter HA configuration. So click on remove, click on OK, and as it's saying, the vCenter HA configuration will be removed, and deleting the VMs that are backing the passive and active nodes. Click on yes. And now, as you could see in the task pane, the destroy the vCenter HA cluster operation has initiated, which is subsequently going to delete our peer node or passive node and witness nodes, and also going to remove all of our HA configurations. And now, as you could see, when we remove the vCenter HA, all of our witness VM and peer VM got deleted, and now we have only our base VM. So that concludes our lab for configuring vCenter HA with basic workflow. I hope you like this video. Thanks for watching it.